So my name is Robert Munteanu. I work with Adobe in Basel. This time I'm wearing a slightly different hat. I'm talking about things that are more in the open source realm. So I'm the PMC Sling of Chair. I'm also involved in the Jackrabbit and Felix projects. Now, today we are going to start with OAuth and OpenID Connect, see what they are good for, how they are implemented, and slowly go into the more practical topics. How does a Sling extension fit into all of this? How it is implemented? And then down to the details, what does code written using this extension look like? How can you use it in your servlets, your scripts, etc. A demo, if all goes well, and then I will talk about future plans a bit. Now, this is the kind of problem that OAuth was designed to solve. Suppose you're a world-famous, renowned YouTube publisher, and some of you might relate to that. So you find an application which you say, this will double my productivity. It does all sorts of wonderful things with the YouTube API, so let me see if I can use it. Now, you take a look at the application, present it with a login screen that says, please enter your Google username and password to continue. Now, because you've been around on the internet for a while, that is a big warning sign for you, right? What happens? So do I give these guys my username and password so they have access not just to YouTube, but to my calendar, to my Google Docs, to my email? And if I change my password, do I have to give it again? If they leak my password, do I have to change it? Oh, this is just a whole mess, right? I'm not going to do that. Instead, what OAuth intends to do is have a flow that has multiple parties. So the one in the corner is the publisher app, right? This is the cool application that we've been talking about. And instead of you authenticating to that app, instead this app takes you to the, let's call it the Google authentication server, right? And you do the authentication over there, and in the end, this application gets a token. And that token is not your password. That's very important, right? If the token is leaked, your password is not leaked. And furthermore, the token is scoped, so you can, let's say, agree with the application what it should give you, right? Do you give it access to YouTube? Do you give it access to calendar? Don't give it access to everything. And it has a lifetime. So OAuth tokens are by definition, have a limited lifetime, and furthermore, it's supposed to be pretty small so that if a token gets leaked, then in time it will do no harm. So in the end, the app authenticates with the token to the YouTube API server, and that's how it acts on your behalf. So that's the general problem that OAuth aims to solve. And you have probably seen this a lot, right? If you go on the internet and you find, the trigger phrases, continue with, connect your account to, connect to your Google Calendar. Now, these are very likely to be applications that use a form of OAuth or OpenID Connect to, well, connect your account to a third party or identify your account on behalf of a third party. So it's all over. It's a very battle-tested protocol on the open internet. I would like to make a quick distinction between OAuth and OpenID Connect because it's easy to get them confused, like I did. So OAuth is the scenario that we saw in the end with in the beginning with access delegation. So it allows you to say this third party can act on my behalf. OpenID Connect, on the other side, is an identity protocol. So it allows a third party to tell something about you. I connect with OpenID Connect to my Microsoft or Google account, and then a third party can validate that indeed I am that person on Google or Microsoft's identity platform. It's easy to get them confused because they are built on the same framework. So technically speaking, OpenID Connect builds on the authorization code flow from OAuth. So they have a shared implementation. And to be pedantic, which, sorry, sometimes I am, OAuth is a framework, so it's a bit more loosely defined, where OpenID Connect is a protocol that is pretty well specified. Okay, and this is the most complicated thing I'm going to talk about, but I hope I will manage it. So this is basically the official diagram that you will find in the OAuth specifications. Now, going back to our YouTube example, the user agent is just a browser. The client is a third-party application, the video publishing app that you want to use. And then the authorization server here is like the thing you authenticate against. And finally, the resource owner, can be YouTube in the previous example, is the thing that the third-party app wants to use. Okay, it's a bit wobbly, sorry. So what happens? So you go to a third-party app, the client, using your browser, and that application sends you to the authentication server, right? And okay, this is not working. So then you go there, and flow B is that you enter your data. You say, okay, log into the Google, GitHub, Microsoft, whatever server. You authenticate, and you agree for that third-party app to get access. And then that third-party app sends not the token yet, but an authorization code that reaches the client. And then the client with that authorization code can finally get the token. I'll have some resources at the end to explain why this is so complicated, but basically it's important for the actual token to not go through the browser because that's a security risk. So this is why we have this whole dance with many letters on screen. Okay, so finally the client gets the access token, which is what they wanted, and they can use it to access those APIs. And because the access tokens are limited in lifetime, they can sometimes get a refresh token, which means they can get a new access token using that refresh token without user interaction. Okay, so that's the big OAuth dance. Now, OpenID Connect is built on top of OAuth. And one key difference is that it gets you an ID token, not an access token. And whereas the access token is opaque, it's not specified, it can be anything, it's not for you to pick at. Don't open the envelope, look at the access token, you're not supposed to do that. The ID token is very well defined. It's based on JSON Web Tokens, JOTs, and it has a number of fields that are standards. And also it has a lot of safeguards regarding to security. So you can do online validation, send that token to a service and validate it. There are a number of claims that you can audit. So who has been issued for, who has it been issued from, when. So it's way better defined. And it looks like this. So just that we have it in front of us. Maybe I can make this work better. There's an issuer that says this is the guy that generated the token. This is the one that are supposed to read it. This is when it expires, and finally, these are some claims. This is the user that I have authenticated. Okay, so where does Sling fit in? The Sling OAuth client bundle allows you to take the role of the client. So you're not implementing no token generation authentication. You just want the Sling application to be able to function as an OAuth client on behalf of third parties. So that means a couple of things. One, there's a way to kick off an authentication flow. So you redirect the user to the authentication server. You get to manage the tokens. You store them. I mean, the bundle gets to manage the tokens, so you don't have to. Right, you can just ask for a token and the flow is kicked off. And also state validation, I will get back. It's a security topic. That is also handled for you as well, and it's based on the excellent Nimbus SDK, open source SDK. I did not try to implement all of the low-level bits, just plug it into where it makes sense in Sling. So you need to store the tokens, right? And a very natural choice for Sling applications is store the tokens in the repository. And that has the advantage that it's there, right? You have Sling, you have the JCR repository. It's protected by ACLs. So usually when you have a user's home, only that user and specified administrators can read it. And it works very well if you have consistent or eventually consistent storage, right? Even a distributed setup with document node store should work, but also standalone use cases. Of course, the problem becomes when you have a different topology, because we can get very creative with Sling-based applications. What if you have a horizontal layer of Sling applications that don't share a repository or cannot really write to them? And of course, the answer is introduce another abstraction, right? You introduce a third-party system. Now, the bundle has support for Redis. It came as a natural idea because you can write things to it and you can set an expiry date, which is more or less what the token store implementation does. This is sort of what the Redis protocol looks like, because a screenshot of the CLI would have been just as dry. So you can set a value and then say it should be gone in 3,600 seconds. That's all there is to it. So there are options, and this is pluggable. State validation is a bit of a complicated topic. I just want to say that I think I got it right without requiring HTTP sessions, without requiring server affinity, so setting a cookie so that the user always hits the same server where the token is stored in memory, and it's not stored in the database. The problem that state validation needs to solve is that what if an attacker enters this flow without A and B being sent, it just sends the application an authorization code. And it overrides it for the application, or sets a user token that belongs to someone else, so the application gets confused and acts on behalf of a different user. But yeah, hopefully that is solved in an elegant manner. Okay, Sling OAuth. To deploy, we have a number of bundles. So I mentioned the OAuth SDK from Nimbus. Notably, this is Java land. They use a different JSON implementation. That's not so bad. I think we already have 3 or 4 in Sling. It's what is another one? We use the common crypto bundle, which is coming from Sling, small, self-contained, and then there is the Redis client, which is momentarily not optional. I'm working on making it optional, and it requires 2 more JSON implementations. Well, that's that. But in the future, I hope to either make the Redis client optional or to make the JSON requirements for the Redis client optional. Okay, to configure it, there's the basic configuration for OpenID Connect, and it's basically what you would expect from something like that: client ID, client secret, what scopes do you want, and then you have to select a token store because there are different options. Okay, code, finally. So this is a basic Sling model. First thing to note, right? You declare a reference to a client connection. Now, this is coming from the OAuth client APIs and is used to identify which connection you want to work with in this specific object. So okay, wrong button. Each connection has a name, right? And this is how you link it back in your code. You set a filter for the property. And then you have the token store service, which allows you to get the tokens. And from there, it's pretty straightforward. You have methods to get an access to a token, and you can see if it's valid or not. And if it's not valid, or you just don't have it, you have a method to print the login URL. And then you can use it as expected in an HL or JSP script. You use the model and you check the various methods. If you like to work with servlets, there is a base class for that as well. The expectation is that you have a top-level servlet which renders HTML as opposed to forwarding to a script. And then you extend the base superclass, and instead of overriding doGet, you override doGet with token, which is a method guaranteed to give you the request, the response, and the valid token. And if the framework detects that you do not have a valid token, it kicks off the OAuth flow for you. Right? This is why you need to give it a reference to the connection, because it will verify that the connection has a token and then just send you off to the respective authentication server and redirect you back once it gets the token. Okay, now I have a lot of time for the demo. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so it's a very small demo application. First of all, I would need to log in. This is unsurprisingly admin, because the tokens are stored under the user's home. So let's first go with the GitHub repositories. Click. Right, so it doesn't automate. This is implemented using a script, so I get the connect your account to GitHub. I'm already logged in, so let's continue. Fine. Okay, now I can search. Now, let's do the following by show of hands. Who thinks that the Apache Sling project has more than 50 repositories on GitHub? Okay, more than 150. Okay, some optimists, more than 400. Okay, still some people. Let's see. We have this standard GitHub search, and let's see what it gives us. Suspense is killing me. Okay, yeah, there we go. 347, we keep improving. Now, if I go to the YouTube videos page, it's the other kind of user experience, right? We get redirected straight to choose our account, where it takes a bit longer with Google because this is an unverified application. So I will be very, very, very certain that this is what I want. Okay, there we go. And if we do a little search, we will see how many videos about the Apache Sling are there. Okay, good. That more or less concludes the demo. Let's full screen. Now, future directions. There are multiple ways we can go about this. So one is we figure out people are more interested about the OpenID Connect part. So that is logging in users on Sling AM instances on behalf of third parties. Right? So we go down the route of implementing more of OpenID Connect, properly supporting it, writing an authentication handler for it. The other one is going more in the OAuth part, right? So finalize the high-level APIs for OAuth clients. So you can write integrations, get access tokens, use them, whatever. If we want to get creative, we can add support for resource resolvers. So we can expose external stuff like, I don't know, calendar events as Sling resources, right? That is also possible. Probably someone is going to ask about AM, right? So the bundle is pure Sling. It should work with AM on-premise, AMS, cloud service without any issues. It has support for wildly different topologies. So again, that is nothing that prevents it being deployed in various AM instances. There is no official statement of whether this is coming to any sort of AM stream. And echoing what many of my colleagues have said, talk to us about it, right? If there is interest, there are way higher chances of this being included in the AM product, as opposed to being something that Robert does for fun. To wrap up, a couple of resources. So the bundle is still in the whiteboard, not for long, I hope. The simple demo application is in the Sling samples repository. Once you register at least one application to GitHub or to Google, you will be able to play around with it. The third one is a blog post that I found very informative in taking you through a step-by-step explanation about why OAuth does things the way it does. So why do we have the token code flow? Why don't we just send tokens? Why don't we send usernames and passwords? Very fun. And the final one, if you like to read the fine manual, you can read the fine manual, the RFC. It's actually quite instructive and informative. Okay, so that takes me to the end. Thank you.
So, somebody wants to test my reading skills. Let's try. Regarding single sign-on by OIDC. In AM configuration, we can set SSO handler and accept certain header information like x-amazon-identity by keycloak. How can we make sure that other users with bad intent not fake or change the header information and send it towards AM server to imitate another user?
Okay, that also tests my knowledge, not just the reading skills. No, I can't answer that off the cuff, sorry.
Okay, we try the next one. Let's see. This is definitely needed in AM. Full stop, we accept that, yeah. We built it some years ago, and I'm sure we were not the only ones. How would this work on AM publish?
Okay, so it depends what you want to do. So if it's OpenID Connect, the authentication handler, to my understanding, should not need to persist the ID tokens. You redirect the user, you establish the identity, and that's it. You don't write it. For publish instances, there is the question of, do you want to persist the OAuth token or not? I guess that is, you can't do that on publish instances in AEM Cloud Service because, well, the repository state is not distributed. So probably, in my mind, there needs to be an enhancement which allows you to persist the tokens somehow.
Next one. Does it support proof of key exchange, PKCE or RFC 7636?
7636, yes, thank you. Now, I did a bit of reading on that, and the proof, the PKCE thing, is mostly intended for public clients. So, like web applications which get the token directly or native applications. It will not be hard to add it, but it doesn't support it at the moment. So basically, it's just adding another parameter, sending a checksum, and then validating it at the end. So it can do that. The toolkit supports it, but it needs a bit of work.
Last and final question. We had it already a bit about AEM, but short question. Will it work on the current version of Sling for AEM 6.5?
So I think the only question here is Java support, because the bundle supports requires just Java 17, but for no good reason. It can be made to switch to Java 11 just because I wanted to work with records and a couple of things, but there's no fundamental reason why it shouldn't be moved back to 11 and then work on AEM 6.5.
Are you ready for 6.5 2025?
Yes.
All right. That's the word. Robert, thank you for having me on stage.
Thank you.